Welcome to the EdTech Pulse, where we dive into the latest in educational technology, helping our teachers here in ECSD harness the power of technology to enrich their learning environments. I'm Nicole Cunningham, and in today's episode, we're exploring an exciting addition to our digital toolkit, Microsoft Copilot Enterprise. And so to get things started today, we are going to take a bit of a dive into a few aspects of Copilot. We're going to start off talking about what Copilot is and what generative AI is. We're going to talk about how Enterprise brings us some security. And then we are going to look a little bit at prompt engineering and what that kind of looks like, as well as the Copilot platform, just to kind of get us started. So step one. What is Copilot? What is generative AI? All of this talk. And so generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that pulls from these large language models known as GPTs to kind of bring in this human conversation type of element. And so it's kind of, I always like to refer to it as a think partner. It is a tool that you can use to kind of ask it to explain things, ask it to summarize things. And so realistically, it can help us streamline our workflows. It can enhance productivity by saving us a lot of time, by doing some administrative tasks and just kind of get the ball rolling on things, as well as help us foster innovation, be that idea think partner. And so it really does help to kind of brainstorm some of the ideas for teaching, help us differentiate things, help us build assessments, really just a really great tool in the educational sector to be able to support us in our teaching and learning adventures. And so another important thing to note about it is that when I talk about those large language models, the bonus piece to Copilot right now is that it is GPT-4. So if you've heard of ChatGPT, that was kind of like the biggest craze. And so there was a free version that was 3.5, which was kind of like a balance of information that was kind of given to you. And then of course, GPT-4 came out, which was a paid version. And the paid version had a lot more precise information that didn't just pull from public sources. It was also starting to pull from academia and scientific journals and other sources like that. And so Copilot actually uses GPT-4 to build its content that it then puts in its output to your task that you have asked it to do. Really cool feature of Copilot is that it's not just a text generator, it's also an image generator. And it pulls from Microsoft Designer, which follows the platform of DALL-E 3, if you are familiar with that. And it will generate images for you based on whatever prompt that you give it. And so we are really lucky to have the enterprise version of this, because the enterprise version that we now have in ECSD as of December is one that is very secure. There's a lot of layers of security that are built into it. And so because security is a top priority, especially when we're working with students and staff in education, Microsoft Copilot Enterprise is built with Microsoft's robust security framework, ensuring that all of our data remains safe and compliant with privacy regulations. A lot of the tools that are out there right now do not follow these standards. There are a lot of privacy concerns. There's a lot of terms of use that people aren't reading up on. And so a lot of tools are not allowed for students like under the age of 18. And so it's really important to know what the privacy in terms of use are anytime that you're using any web service or tool. But in particular, when it comes to AI right now, the education world kind of at first took off really fast. And now everyone's kind of pulling the reins back because there are these privacy concerns. And so as all of the school divisions throughout the province, throughout North America, start to build guidelines for use of it, we are really lucky here because we at least have a tool that now has an enterprise version, which does provide some security for us to help things again, be compliant with our FOIP, et cetera. And so we don't need to necessarily worry about compromising sensitive information when we are using this tool. And so I am really excited to show this to you today. So to do that, I am actually just going to jump into a browser. And I'm going to start off by just kind of showing you really quickly. Here, I'll just make this a little bit bigger for you. We do have a couple of SharePoint pages for artificial intelligence. And so the first one is just artificial intelligence in education in general. And it does have a lot of resources on it to kind of support you. You can also click here to link to copilot.microsoft.com, but I'll also show you just how to type it in and go with that as well. It's really important to read up on all this important information, the digital citizenship, the tools for every educator. So just click the little drop downs and read through that prior to using. I've also put up some articles. So as articles are kind of coming out in regards to education, I'm adding them to this page. So feel free to check back with this page. I've also created another SharePoint page that actually talks about kind of the journey, where we were a year ago and where we are now. And so that whole idea of like, remember when, the internet was created, how people are like, how are you going to get information from that? We're not going to use books anymore. And so you've got all those aspects, but then also just a little bit of prompt engineering just to kind of get you started. And we're going to talk about that today and some ways that we can use it, but we're not really going to dive in. But if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to one of your EdTech team and we can dive a little bit further with you. So let's actually look at the platform. So if you just go to a new tab in your URL in your browser and you type in copilot.microsoft.com, what's going to happen is it's going to open up the platform. When you open up this platform, you are going to just see like kind of a general page. Mine's already signed in because I've been signed into it. You will see on this right-hand side is a little tab that says sign in. So if you click sign, you're going to get two options. You're going to get with personal account or with work account. Please choose the work account. Your personal account does not have the data protected. So you will want to take that into account and choose the work one. When you choose the work one, you're going to see two things. You're going to see the ECSD emblem show up in the top left-hand corner, along with the protected over here. And so this shows that you are in your ECSD version of this. And so coming back into these slides really quickly, it's going to jump back. I really appreciate this book. There's a lot of books out there on AI in education. And so Holly Clark has a really great one, the AI Infused Classroom. Matt Miller has a really great one as well as Daniel Fitzpatrick. And so I really like this one right now because I like a few quotes in there and I like the way that they kind of prompt engineer, but they all have really great ideas. And so for that, I am very thankful that we do have some of these tech gurus in the world. And so this is a quote in particular that I like. Outsource your doing, not your thinking. And so this is something that's really important to remember when we are using any kind of generative AI, is that we still need to do the thinking. As educators, that is our job, that is our professional obligation, is to do the thinking. And we know our students best. This artificial intelligence does not know our students. That kind of gets a general roundabout, but you also need to know that AI and the output that it generates in this generative AI is full of inaccuracies, it's full of bias. And so you need to put your lens on every single piece of output and ensure that it is something that you're going to want to use as a idea generator or whatever you might be. I would definitely discourage a whole copy and paste. And I would encourage reading through, using it to help you build those ideas. And so that's also a little bit of that ethical aspect of it as well. And so once upon a time, we were in this world where we got the Google search and all of a sudden, we had to learn how to actually direct it to search for what we wanted. How many of you put in a search sentence or frame or a keyword and you didn't get what you were looking for? So there was actually a skill to actually learning how to prompt a Google search. Well, Google searches, they're just going to show us information and they're going to give us a lot of different resources that we then have to sift through. And then, of course, came along this generative AI, and it's referred to as prompting. So it's kind of the same thing, but the difference is that this is kind of like having that human conversation. So you're going to have to generate prompts that are quite specific. You're going to have to give roles. You're going to have to give a target audience. You're going to have to start with a verb. So if you wanted to explain, to summarize, to create, whatever it might be that you want it to do. And so with that piece, here's just kind of a cute little example that says history of Roman Empire. Once I put that into a Google search, I get all of these resources. Now I have to go through them and start looking for information. You'll still want to go back and forth into a Google search to look for information, but the bonus to Copilot is that it actually cites things for you. GPT doesn't. So Copilot does. So I will show you that as well today. Also, when you're prompting, you're actually pretending you're having that conversation and you're wanting it to explain it to you. So explain the history of the Roman Empire. Explain the history of the Roman Empire to a student in grade 5. And so you can start to really tailor it the way that you want that to be. And so as we kind of like go into this space, I want to talk about a few different ways that we can also use this. But before we do, I want to look at this, the actual, I already showed you the platform. Now I just want to talk about what's in it. And so this is a couple of little slides that are just, they're out from Microsoft. And it just talks a little bit about the Copilot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to skip over this, but they are in the actual blog piece of the Sway that you can go back and refer to. And so jumping forward into, let's jump back into the space. Let's talk about it. When you're in your Copilot, what you're going to notice first off is up in this top left-hand corner, you're going to see a chat and you're going to see a notebook. So the notebook was just released in the last couple of weeks. And if you would have put in a prompt, asked it to generate some output for you in December, you might not have been overly happy with what it gave you. What it gives you now already, just over a month later, is a significant improvement. So note that all of these generative AIs are also constantly improving. And so chat is going to give you this thread that kind of looks like this, and I can keep going back and forth and having a conversation. I don't need to keep restating the first initial paragraph. It is supposed to stay in that thread with me. And you can see that there's 4,000 prompts that I can actually use within this. Last 2 weeks ago, it was 30. So already there's other improvements that are already along here. There's also this notebook version. And the notebook right now just gives you like kind of a dual platform. So you can see the prompt on the left-hand side and the output. So your inputs on the left, the outputs on the right. You can dictate. So you can actually put that dictation piece into it. You can add an image and ask it to alter an image. You can also just ask it to create an image. But what I want to note is when I'm in chat, you'll also see this conversation style right here. So more creative, this is start an original and imaginative chat. So if you want it to generate like a story example, you would choose more creative. If you want it to generate an image, I would choose more creative. More balanced is recommended for everyday informed chat. So if I'm looking for a recipe, I would ask it for a balanced one. If I'm looking for maybe a workout routine, I'd ask it for that. More precise is something that's a little bit more fact-finding. And so when we kind of think about GPT 3.5 versus 4.0, 3.5 is kind of more general public information. 4.0 is a little bit more academia-based. So if you're looking for that more academic component, choose the more precise. Now, when I go and use this notebook, if I want to change one of those conversation styles, I actually need to go back into here, change it, and now jump into notebook. So just a quick little tip for if you are using the notebook aspect. So what you're going to do down here is it's also going to give you a couple of like different prompts up here. You can choose to use them if you want, or you can just ask it to do something. So I'm going to say, generate me a meal plan for one person for 3 days. Create a grocery list. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say a vegetarian, not a vegetarian, but I'm still going to throw it in. Generate me a vegetarian meal plan for one person for 3 days. Create a grocery list create a grocery list. And I'm just going to start there. Let's see what it does. So you can see it is just going to start to throw this out. So when I talk about saving you time, so you can focus on some of the more important things like the students in your classroom or your family at home, this is a tool that can support with that. And so it's given me a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner. I didn't even ask it for that precise. Like I said, maybe in December, it would have just given me 3 meals. As of today, it's already gotten so much better that it starts to generate categories on its own. But if you really want categories, ask it for categories. If you really want it to list things, ask it to list. So be really precise in what you're asking it to do. And so you can see how this could save you a lot of time. Instead of me having to go look through a bunch of different recipes, I now have 3 days of meals planned out. And so I'm just going to kind of let that go. I can also ask this to generate an image for me. So I'm going to say create an image, because those are the words that we're going to use for generating images, of a black Great Dane with a pink bow tie on the wing of an airplane in the night sky. And so usually I would say new topic because I'm doing something new. Note that these threads, it's kind of like a Twitter thread or an Instagram, where it just kind of keeps rolling off that same idea. So you can keep doing that. If you want to start a new topic, then you would just click the new topic. But I just wanted to do this quick to give you a quick thing. But you can see here, look at the images that it generated. So great for like generating story prompt write-ons. Images, visuals for that, or even just a general visual to support your EIL learners in your classroom, or all your learners even at that point. And so if you click into it, it will take you into Copilot Designer, where then you can copy this image and use it. It is royalty free. And so this is kind of an extra cool feature about that. And then of course, the more specific you are, the more specific the image. If you're looking for an AI generated image, usually it messes up on fingers. It gives them 6 fingers, 4 fingers, that kind of thing, 2 thumbs, whatever. It also will sometimes turn the eyes a little weird. So you'll be able to notice that piece. So you can just ask it to regenerate as well if it does give some of those slips. Also note that there are AI hallucinations. So when I talked earlier about inaccurate information, sometimes it makes up information because people are putting in incorrect information. There's incorrect information all over the internet. So make sure, again, that you put your teacher expert lens on to double check things as they go. And so before we kind of wrap this up today, because I don't want to make it too much longer, there's some really easy ways that you can use it just to simplify your life. I showed you how to make a menu plan. You can make it for whatever you want. Ask it for how-to instructions. If you're working on team agendas or meetings, even if you're working on an email for a parent, you've created this email and you want to make sure that there's nothing that they might take offense to and you want it to soften it, you can ask it to do that. Even if when you go on spring break vacation or summer vacation, have it build you a travel itinerary where you want to go. So really some just kind of simple ideas for in your own life. And then of course I did put this in here as well, and the images are also in the blog. This is from Microsoft. These are their elements of a good prompt. And so I just put a prompt in that was really basic without following this protocol. But if I want to dive into my curriculum, I want to make sure that I'm asking the tool to take a role. I want to give it a clear objective. Using verbs is really important. So it says, act as a helpful tutor who breaks down complex subjects into easy explanations. I want you to explain the process of photosynthesis. And then you need to give it an audience. So to a 14-year-old student. So use the ages. It's usually a little bit more clear than grade levels. Then you want to give more precise information or instructions. So to assist with biology exam preparations is your context. And then you also want to set boundaries. So you want it, or parameters, whatever you want to call them. And so your answer should be 300 words written in a tone that's friendly and educational. So you can set those boundaries. You can set formatting boundaries and much more. And so there's lots of different ways that you can use it. They'll also be in the blog piece. Look for these images, just some things that I've kind of gathered along the way. So leveling up vocabulary, getting it to build some challenges and activities, getting it to build some low tech or high tech maker activities. So many things that you can do in Copilot to help, number one, bring some joy back to your life. And number two, save you some time so that you can actually spend time with your students, teaching and enjoying that space. And so on that note, I just want to thank you for joining me today. And I hope that this gets you started in that world of, or in your journey of generative AI, artificial intelligence. And again, if you have any questions or want to dive a little further, I'm sure my next episode will be a bit more of a dive into prompt engineering a little bit deeper. So have a great day, and thank you so much. Thank you for pulsing with us.